Hello everyone, I am Francine Sky Tortal, and in behalf of my co-reporters Giara J. Samban and Edita Irene Sadyan, let me welcome you all to Lesson 3 of Module 7, entitled Norm Reference and Criterion Reference Grading. In this lesson, you will be introduced to the two categories of grading, which is norm referenced and the criterion referenced. Inferences regarding test takers' performance on a particular assessment can be drawn into two different ways, using norm referenced and criterion referenced testing. These two types are used at different educational levels in the Philippines. Different constructing methods, underlying goals, and scoring interpretation techniques distinguish these assessment tasks. Let's begin with norm reference grading system. When grades are compared to other students, it is called norm referencing. It refers to a grading system wherein a student's grade is placed in relation to the performance of a group. In addition, the typical grade may be shifted down or up depending on the group's ability. When there appears to be a need to compare the grades of the students, classes, or groups with one another, using a norm reference grading system is suitable. It works effectively in circumstances that demand strict differentiation among students and helps teachers identify students who perform best when compared to other students.
Now, there are six different advantages of the norm reference grading system. First, it is easy to use. Second, it works well for the courses with retention policies and it limits only a few students to advance to the next level of the course. Third, it is useful if the focus is on the individual achievement of the students. Fourth, it is appropriate for a large group of students, that is more than 40. Fifth, it does not encourage cooperation among the students. Sixth, the teacher easily identifies learning criteria, the percentage of students who received the highest grade or lowest grade. Now, if there is advantages, there are also disadvantages. And there are four disadvantages for the norm reference grading system. First, we have the performance of a student is not only determined by his achievement but also the achievement of the other students. Second, it promotes competition among the students rather than cooperation. Third, it cannot be used when the class size is smaller than 40. Fourth, not all students can pass the given subject or course.
Hello there! Once again, I am Editha Irene Sadyan and I will be reporting to you the Criterion Referenced Grading System. So earlier, the reporter have talked about the norm referenced grading system and its advantages and disadvantages as well. Now, let me introduce to you the Criterion Referenced Grading System. So, it gives grades that reflect absolute performance or compared to specific standards. The student must get a grade higher than or equal to a given standard to pass a given test. Now, let me tell you its advantages. We have three. First is the performance of the students will not be affected by the performance of the whole class. Second, it promotes cooperation among the students. And third, all students may pass the subject or course when they meet the standards set by the teacher. Okay? Now let's proceed to the disadvantages. We have two. First, it is difficult to set a reasonable standard if it is not stated in the grading policies of the institution. Second, all students may not pass the subject or course when they do not meet the standard set by the teacher or, of course, the institution.
Hello everyone, good morning. We are now down to lesson 4 of module 7, which is the distribution of grades and guidelines to effective grading. And in this lesson, there are three components. The first one is the distribution of grades, which is discussed by me. And the second one is the score compared to learning potential, which is discussed later on by Miss Yowen Sab. And for the third one, the guidelines for effective and fair grading, which is to be discussed by Miss Francel and Miss Kyla later on. Now let's talk about the distribution of grades. And the first one is the norm, reference, or relative performance. So, what do you mean by distribution of grades in norm, reference, or relative grading? So, when we say relative grading or norm reference grading, it is about the grading on the curve. When grading on the curve, any pass-fail decision will be based on an absolute standard or fail the minimum essential. And lastly, it is standards and ranges should be able to understand and followed by all teachers. Now, when we say grading on the curve, it is about a practice used by the teacher to determine student grades for assignments and exams where grades are adjusted to reflect the professor's desires. Professor's desired distribution of scores, or also known as normal distribution. Now, grading on the curve can be done in a variety of ways. So typically, a teacher examines the raw grades that all his or her students received from an assignment or exam and adjusts all the grades relative to each other. And on the other hand, grading on the curve refers to the process of adjusting student grades in order to ensure that a test or assignment has to proper distribution throughout the class. Now, for example, only 20% of students receive A and 30% of the students receive B. So, yeah, and so on, as well as a desired total average. For example, a C grade average for a given test, no? Also called marking on a curve. I mean, Grading on a curve is also called a marking on a curve or bell curving. Now, this method safeguards grading standards across different classes. The curve refers to a bell curve, the shape of a graph that all students scored should resemble when plotted after adjustment. Next is the criterion referenced or absolute grading. So when we say criterion reference grading, it is a seldom used grading alone. Also, it often includes checklists of what has been mastered. And lastly, the distribution of grades is not predetermined. So when we say criterion reference grading or grades, it is based on measuring a student against a level of performance, not measuring one student against another students. This means that looking at how a student is performing today compared to how the students performed the day before. The day before that. So meaning to that, um, you are recording the progress of the students, whether he or she his or her performance are progressing or developing.
We have learned about the relative and absolute grading, wherein scores depend on your rank while the latter is based on the specified performance standard. So I am Yuan Sap and we will now delve deeper onto the score compared to learning potential. So talking about this part of the Module 7, score compared to learning potential can be determined by teachers through the past performance of the students. This score compared to learning potential is widely used in elementary schools to test and challenge improvement and the learning potential of the students at a young age. Thus, in these scoring, grades are inconsistent with a standard based performance. So, when we talk about standard based performance or grading, it is an intentional way for teachers to track their students' progress and achievements while focusing on helping students learn and reach their highest potential. Therefore, in score compared to learning potential, it is inconsistent with a standard based system because each child has their own standard, as they have different potential that a teacher should hone individually.
Moreover, reliably estimating learning ability is very difficult as well because it is separate from achievement itself. Additionally, one cannot reliably measure change with classroom measures. Therefore, scores compared to learning potential should only be used as a supplement scoring system or grading system. So that would be all for the score compared to learning potential.
Okay, now so let's move on to the guidelines for effective and fair grading. So according to Miller, Lin, and Gronlund 2009, suggested the following guidelines for effective and fair grading. And this can be adopted in the Philippine educational system, most especially in the higher education institutions. So number one, discuss your grading procedures to the students at the very start of instruction. So the purpose of a grading system is to give feedback to students so they can take charge of their learning and to provide information to all who support these students, teachers, special education educators, parents, and others. Number two, make clear to the students that their grades will be purely based on achievement. The third one, explain how other elements like effort or personal social behaviors will be reported. Fourth one, relate the grading procedures to the intended learning outcomes or goals or objectives. So grading is used to evaluate and provide feedback on student work. So in this way, instructors communicate to students how they are performing in the course and where they need more help to achieve the course's goals. Fifth one, get hold of valid evidence like test results, reports, presentation, projects, and other assessment results as basis for computation and assigning grades. Okay, the sixth one, take precautions to prevent cheating on tests and other assessment measures. Success takes hard work, persistence, dedication, diligence, and willingness to sacrifice. Cheating and trying to find the easy way out just doesn't help you learn and develop these traits. If you persist in laziness and cheating, you will continue to find it hard to attain your goals. So once again, this is Francel Jane Solarte, and I'm gonna give the floor to Kyla Rocha for the remaining guidelines for effective and fair grading. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Kyla Elocha, and at this point, we are going to talk about the remaining six guidelines for effective and fair grading. Ideally, grading and reporting system should be developed cooperatively by parents, students, and school personnel in order to ensure development of a more adequate system and a system that is understandable to all. Thus, they should be based on a clear statement of learning objectives. The grading and reporting system needs to be based on the same set of learning objectives that the parents, teachers, and students agreed at the beginning. Consistent with the school standards. The system must support the school standard rather than oppose the school standard already set. Based on adequate assessment. The grading and reporting system and should easily be verifiable through adequate system of testing, measurement, and assessment methods. Based on the right level of detail. The system must be detailed enough to be diagnostic but compact enough to be practical, not too consuming to prepare and use, understandable to users, and easily summarized for school records purposes. And last, providing for parent-teacher conferences as needed. Hence, here are the six remaining guidelines for effective and fair grading. Number 7. Return all test and other assessment results as soon as possible. Number 8. Assign a weight to the various types of achievement included in the grade. Number 9. Tardiness. Weak effort or misbehavior should not be charged against the achievement grade of students. Number 10. Be judicious or fair and avoid bias. But when in doubt, in case of a borderline student, review the evidence. If still in doubt, assign the higher grade. Number 11. Grades are black and white. As a rule, do not change grades. And last, number 12. Keep pupils informed of their class standing or performance. And that's it for Lesson 4, Module 7. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Bye.
Good day to each and everyone. At this juncture, we are going to discuss Module 7, Lesson 5, Conducting Parent-Teacher Conference. And now we have here our objectives. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to A. Define what is a parent-teacher conference. B. Determine problems encountered in a parent conference. Okay, so we have 4 reporters in this lesson. Yours truly, Leonard Ansuaza, Ella Clarice Sanchez, Rachel Tesoro, and lastly, Yvette Sina Tuba. Now, let's talk about the parent-teacher conferences. Parent-teacher conferences are a means of communicating the students' achievement to their parents. This is where the teacher can inform parents on the good and bad points of their child, and at the same time, give an opportunity to parents to be involved in their children's education. Okay, so the following points provide helpful reminders when preparing for and conducting parent-teacher conferences. First, make plans for the conference. Set goals and objectives of the conference ahead of time. It's really important to make plans for the conference. We need to set goals and objectives so that we can determine the flow of the conference.
Now, moving on to the second one, which is begin the conference in a positive manner. Starting the conference in a positive manner is an important way to set the mood of the meeting. It sets the stage for a successful and productive conference, and it helps keeps everyone engaged and interested in the discussion. Thus, this can also make sure that everyone leaves feeling energized and on the same page. The third one is present the students' strong points before describing the areas needing improvement. So it means that the conference is not solely focusing to the deficiency of a child or how they can improve this, but it also encompasses the acknowledgement of their strong points. So it means here that before you present the deficiency of a child, you also need to acknowledge first their strong points, and that is um, a great way to have in a conference.
Good day everyone, this is Rachel Tesoro and we'll continue to discuss the ways in conducting parent-teacher conferences. So like my groupmates have shared, a parent-teacher conference or PTC is a brief meeting between you and your child's teacher concerning your child's academic performance and school experience. So these meetings assist you in understanding what your child is learning at school, even their academic and social emotional growth, and to think what you can do to help them. So if your child is experiencing special challenges, parent-teacher conferences allow you and the teacher to discuss how you can best assist them. So here are other helpful reminders when preparing for and conducting parent-teacher conferences. So we have fourth, encourage parents to participate and share information. So if teachers are unfamiliar with the child's parent background or body, they should make an effort to learn more about them. So teachers should urge parents to contribute information about their child's strengths and limitations, even what type of support system they have at home and whether there is anything going on in that child's life that could affect their behavior in the classroom. So this type of information may be quite useful in preparing teachers to meet the needs of their children. Also, as a parent, they should know best or be observant about their children at home. So during conferences, it will be easily determined the reasons behind child's behavior whether it is positive or negative. Next is to plan a course of action cooperatively. So here we can realize the importance of sharing information about child's life from parent and teacher's point of view. It is because the information being shared will be analyzed and used in what kind of actions needs to be done addressing the concerns of a child. So a course of action should be well planned because this will serve as tool for child's development and growth. Also, in planning the course of action, the cooperation of a parent is a must because with the infusion of parent and teacher suggestions or recommendations for the development of the child, a course of action will be effectively made. And those are other reminders in conducting parent-teacher conferences. I guess we still have following reminders that will be discussed by my group mates. So keep watching. Thank you.
Another tip in conducting a teacher and parent conference is to end the conference with positive environment. As my group mate has said earlier, we should begin the conference with a positive environment. Hence, we should also end the conference with positive environment rather. So at the end of the conference, thank the parents for coming and say something positive about the student or about their children. Like for example, you will say, Mary is a good student, or Sebastian is an energetic, friendly, and optimistic student. So, for the last tip in conducting a teacher and parent conference, we must use good human relation skills during the conference. So, according to Laura Portulis, communication is a key component in human relations. It is important from the perspective of conveying clear messages and being a good listener. But it is also key in building trust, making connections, and working effectively with others or with the parents. So, like everyone, I'm sure we or you have experienced both miscommunication as well as communication that brought about a good connection with someone else. Like, for example, what we always experience in our class, we often have miscommunication, misunderstanding, or misinterpretation, but we still have good relationship with one another. So this shows the power of communication in human relations. Besides communication, empathy is an important aspect of positive human relation skills. With empathy, we are able to understand how someone feels when they are experiencing disappointment, happiness, sadness, anger, and stress, to name a few. So, empathy is one way we can connect with others because we've likely experienced these emotions too. So, we know how it feels. The ability to manage stress is also an important human relation skill. Everyone, for sure, experiences stress in their life, and understanding how to best handle stress can be key to ensuring stress doesn't negatively impact your ability to interact with others. So, as we all know, both parents and teachers handles too much stress in their lives. So, the ability to manage stress can help us have a successful conference. So, all of these skills we address in this section, combined with our personality, values, and perceptions, can determine how well we conduct parent teacher conference. That would be the end of our lesson. Thank you so much for listening.